Good afternoon, and thank you for joining the Gwinnett NAACP's Sunday Conversation. We are so happy to have you all here today. We have some wonderful special guests that we'll be talking to. I am Simeon Harris, communications here at the Gwinnett NAACP, and we're joined by some other superstars here in the Gwinnett NAACP, and we'll definitely introduce and talk through our wonderful format for interviewing our candidates today. While you were here, we are live on YouTube and Facebook, so please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Let us know that you're here. We'd love to hear more from you via chat. Hopefully we'll be taking some questions from you via chat as well. So please jump on in and let's interact and have that conversation today. If you are interested in joining the Gwinnett NAACP, you can join our fight for justice and equity here in Gwinnett County at naacpgwinnett.org. Again, that's naacpgwinnett.org. You can also volunteer. You can also donate. We are a 100% volunteer organization, and we are fighting to make Gwinnett the best Gwinnett it can be. And that's a Gwinnett that represents all of the wonderful diversity and all of the people here in Gwinnett, so we can come together as one Gwinnetian family. A couple of items just for housekeeping, we'll be talking through at the beginning of our broadcast here, and then we will get right into the fun stuff, and that's talking to our Gwinnett County School Board candidates. On that note, I will turn things over to our president, Ms. Penny Poole, for some updates and some comments in relation to the Gwinnett NAACP. Penny, are you there?
I'm here. I am here. Thank you for that warm introduction. It is a beautiful Sunday in Gwinnett County. We're here ready to learn, meet the candidates. We're excited about this season. It has been such a fluid time. We're in the presence of a pandemic. We're sheltering in place. The headlines are bringing police brutality. The census deadline is upcoming. There's so much going on. And we hope that this short time with you today will inform you and give you information about what is taking place in our school board. Again, we welcome you. The Gwinnett NAACP welcomes you. Please look at our sites. We'll have more information later. But let's get this started. We have a lot to talk about.
Thank you so much, Penny. At this time, I'd like to introduce our moderators. Again, I am Simeon Harris. We also have Penny Poole, our president. We have Amira Lawson, our political action chairperson, and we have Adrian Johnson, a major part of our communications and political action committees. So again, we thank you so much for being here. Our format today is we'll be asking each candidate the same questions. None of the candidates have gotten these questions in advance. These are all impromptu for them. So they'll definitely be thinking on their feet, but providing you with the great information about their candidacy and their views. Each question will get 1.5 minutes, and there may be some follow-up questions, which we'll try to limit to around 30 seconds. If time permits, we'd also love to get some questions from the audience. So please, please, please get in chat. Let us know what's going on and tell us what your thoughts are so we can start talking about those things as well. With that in mind, we're going to go through our candidate introductions. And so, Adrian, if you could take us away with our next section, please. I think you are muted there. Let me see if I can unmute you here. There we go.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Adrian Johnson. As Mr. Harris said, I am pleased to be able to be a part of this Sunday conversation. I am honored to introduce our candidates this afternoon. And let's start with District 1, which includes all or part of Archer, Brookwood, Central Gwinnett, Decula, Discovery, Grayson, Mill Creek, Mountain View, and South Gwinnett clusters, in addition to Oakland Meadow School. The candidates that we have for District 1 are Carol Boyce, which is the 2020 Vice Chairman. She is the incumbent, and Karen Watkins. Let's start with Carol Boyce. If you would like to introduce yourself first, please.
Oh, okay. I guess I am unmuted already, but hello. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be with you today. I really look forward to it. And as we talk about some of the issues and where we can go, as we all agree, we are here for the students, no doubt about that. And our first and foremost, the information that we have to share, the direction that we are going, it is to make sure that we have the best possible educational system for our students. I have been on the board for 15 years, and I have really enjoyed the opportunity to serve on this board. I am a former teacher. I'm the mother of 6 children. We live in the Decula community, and we've been here for 32 years. Before that, we lived in Lilburn. I feel very strongly that education is the key to any of the problems or issues or situations that we have out there. Because if we do not have an educated population, we do not have the opportunity to solve the problems that are out there. For example, if we attack any of the situations that we have, or if we look at any of the distressing opportunities that we have, if we know the information, if we work together, if we share our information and work with collaboration, because we are all here for the very best of our community. We want to pool all the resources that we have, and some of them are very limited, and some of the areas that we need help with perhaps are in areas that perhaps others have not thought about. So I look forward to working with all in the community and make sure that we provide the very best education that we can for our kids. We are in a very unusual time, and there are so many opinions out there as to how we should best handle the pandemic and how we can best serve the students that we have. We are back in school. We have been there for 2 weeks. Things are going relatively well. Of course, there are things that we can do differently, and we look forward to working through some of those things. But our students are our future. I know that sounds trite, but it is so crucial. And we do not want to lose any of our students along the way. When they are at home, it is a difficult situation for many of the families, because obviously most people are working, or if they can work, they are. So sometimes it's very difficult for them to do the in-person learning. However, we also see that the services that the school represent are very important, and we want to make sure that we serve them the best we can. So anyway, I guess that means my time is up, but I appreciate the opportunity to be here and talking with you and serving our children.
Thank you so much for introducing yourself, Ms. Booth. And now we'll have Ms. Karen Watkins.
If you can unmute there, Karen.
Thank you. Hi there, my name is Karen Watkins. I just want to first thank everyone for having this forum for us to help introduce all the candidates that are running for school board. As you know, school board is extremely important to our community. I am running to work to ensure our children obtain, all our children obtain a quality education, a high quality education at that, as well as ensuring that our schools are safe, our children are healthy, and also ensure that they have a nurturing, caring environment. Earlier, I just emphasized work to ensure these things happen. by helping to ensure we have strategic plans, work with our community, and ensure all of our community stakeholders' voices are heard. Those are the reasons why I'm running. Again, my name is Karen Watkins for School Board District 1. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Watkins. Next, we'll have representatives for District 3. District 3 represents all or part of the Collins Hill, Duluth, Lanier, Norcross, North Gwinnett, and Peachtree Ridge clusters, as well as Give Center West, New Life Academy of Excellence, North Metro Academy of Performing Arts, and the Vice Center, which includes ADAPT, Strive, and Bridge programs. First, we have the incumbent, Dr. Mary Kay Murphy, and also Ms. Tanisha Banks. Let's start with Dr. Mary Murphy.
Hello, and thank you for the opportunity to meet with the members of the Gwinnett NAACP and those listening and viewing online. Thank you, Ms. Johnson, for your introduction. I'd like the listening audience to know 3 things about me. First, I was a public school teacher for 7 years, while my husband was assigned to military training in Georgia and California. The lessons that I learned in the profession, especially the lessons of poverty related to our students, will stay with me through all the years of my life, and they do link directly to my work on the Gwinnett Board of Education. Second, I want you to know that I worked for 20 years at 2 remarkable historically Black colleges and universities, 3 years at Morris Brown College, and 17 years at Morehouse School of Medicine. I worked as an advocate for the HBCUs and historically Black academic medical centers. I worked to provide scholarships for African American and other students who became the first in their families to graduate from college. Also, I worked with medical school faculty to secure research funding to address challenges of racial and medical inequity, and to find pathways to equity and health. From that work, I learned lessons about health disparities and the impact of the metabolic syndrome on people of color, especially those living in the South Stroke Belt. Third, I am an elected member for 6 terms on the Gwinnett County Board of Education. My work on the board is directed by my experience as a public school teacher and as an advocate for African American and other students of color. I have a record of supporting student and school safety, focusing on academic achievement for all students, and ensuring fiscal responsibility to the taxpayers of Gwinnett County, 47.7% of them, to the state of Georgia, 43.6% of them, and to the federal government, 8.7% of the GCPS current $2.346 billion budget. Thank you for the opportunity to introduce myself, and I look forward to our continued discussion later today. Thank you, Ms. Johnson.
Thank you, Dr. Murphy. Next, we'll have Ms. Tanisha Banks.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Thank you for the NAACP having this platform for all of the candidates for school board. And my name is Tanisha Banks, and I am running to be your next school board representative for District 3. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. I am a current school Gwinnett County teacher, and I specialize in special education. I've been teaching in the county for over a decade. And I also have 2 children that attend school in this district. So I am very vested in the success of our Gwinnett County schools, as well as my children and I
it looks like we may have lost Miss Banks. Hopefully she will jump back in and we can go right back to her when she does. It looks like that is her there. So let me bring Tanisha Banks back in.
Okay.
Are you back there, Tanisha?
I am. I got cut out. Okay. I don't know what all you heard. So I'll just start where I thought that I got cut off. I was basically saying that I have 2 children that currently attend school in the district where I will represent. And I invested in the success of our students in Gwinnett County because I'm on the front lines as a teacher, as well as a mother with 2 students that are currently in the system. Let me tell you a little bit about my platform so that you get to know a little bit about me. I'm running on my platform of diversity. We all know that Gwinnett County is the most diverse county in the Southeast.
Looks like there may be a connection problem there. So we'll work to try to get that stabilized. In the meantime, Adrian, if you could go with our next guest, that'd be great.
Our next district representation will be District 5, which represents portions of Berkmar, Discovery, Duluth, Meadow Creek, and Norcross clusters, in addition to Gwinnett School of Mathematics, Science, and Technology, and Maxwell High School of Technology. We have Dr. Therese Johnson, who is present, and there is no challenger for this seat. Dr. Johnson.
Hello, thank you all for the opportunity this evening to just share a little bit about myself and my platform. I am originally from Houston, Texas. I went to college in Puerto Rico, La Universidad del Sagrado Corazón. My background is very much very diverse, mixed heritage, and I have Latinx people in my family, and I really understand with representing this community in District 5 that's heavily Latinx. I understand some of the challenges, one, just because of my personal relations and experiences by living in Texas and having family members who some of them had to learn English, right? And there are some certain challenges there as well. And so part of my commitment here in District 5 is to support our Latinx community and to ensure that they have what they need to be successful, and that all of our children in Gwinnett County have what they need to be successful, right? My platform is a platform that's really based on equity. So it is meeting the individual needs of every single child, regardless of background, regardless of race, ethnicity, economic status. It is literally just making sure that every child, every administrator, and our teachers are supported. They feel like they have the opportunities to succeed, and they feel like they have their needs met. And that is my goal. Multiculturalism is very important to me. I wrote a book called The Global Purpose Approach. The Global Purpose Approach addresses multiculturalism in our educational system. It includes implicit bias training. It includes ensuring that our curriculum engages all people, Black, Latinx, Indigenous American people, as well as white people, are seen, heard, valued, respected, and celebrated. And I look forward to being a part of a great team of people who are committed to equity, who are committed to justice, who are committed to the liberation of all of our students, to ensure that they are successful, to ensure that they are globally competitive, and that they are empathetic leaders who understand the differences and know how to manage through differences. So again, I thank everyone for their vote, and I ask you all to continue to support your values and vote for the people you feel is best. But please, November, go out and vote. And even though I'm elected, I still need you all to go out and vote. So please vote for me.
Thank you so much, Dr. Johnson. Do we have Ms. Banks back?
Yes, it looks like you are back. I think the third time is going to be
I
the
hope so.
charm for us today.
I hope so. If not, I'm going to have to call in or something.
Ms. Banks, why don't you just start from the beginning so there will be some continuity in your introduction?
Okay. Hello, everyone. I thank the NAACP and you, Ms. Johnson, for having this platform for us to talk about the different issues that's confronting our school board, and also allowing us to talk a little bit about our campaign and our values. My name is Tanisha Banks, and I am running to be your next school board representative for District 3. And a little bit about me. I am a current teacher in Gwinnett County Public Schools. I'm a special education teacher as well as an ESOL teacher. And I also have 2 children that currently attend the school in this district, which I will represent. And I have some basic issues that what I'm calling my platform, which number 1 is diversity. Gwinnett County is a very diverse county. Gwinnett County is a majority minority county, and I believe that that needs to be reflected on our school board, which currently it is not. So that is one of the reasons why I wanted to also run for school board, is because our children need to see someone on that school board that represents them. Also, as far as protecting the taxpayers' money, we've got to make sure that the money that people are paying for their taxes are spent in our schools in reference to making sure that our students achieve. And I'm going to make sure that that happens. I'm running on experience. I've been teaching for over a decade. I'm on the front lines every single day. I know what's going on in our schools day in and day out, as well as being a parent in an elementary school, as well as a parent of a high schooler. So I'm there. I know what's going on. Accountability and transparency. That's a major thing right now that we're dealing with, as far as being transparent in reference to data, numbers, infection rates, etc. So I want to make sure that the public is aware and we have transparent, accurate numbers to share with them. Accessibility and visibility. I'm going to be accessible. I'm not just going to come around during graduation or once a year to your schools. I'm going to come around to see you, talk to you, have conversations with you. You're going to know who I am. So I'm going to be visible in this particular district. And I want to be accessible as well via email, phone, however you want to talk to me, I will be there. I'm going to advocate for our teachers and students. I'm running on advocacy. I talk a lot and I'm not afraid to speak out. So I will be speaking on different issues that come up in the community. And I will be advocating for our teachers as well as our students and parents in this particular district. And I appreciate your vote November 3rd. I guarantee you, I would love to have Gwinnett County be in the top 5 of the nation. We can be a greater Gwinnett. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Banks. And Simeon, I'll turn it over to you.
All right. Thank you, Adrian, and thank you all for those great introductions. Again, if you have some questions, please put them in the chat so we can talk through them, and hopefully we can get to those questions as well. We see our chat room filling up, so thank you again for all of our viewers that are here. A couple of background items in relation to the Gwinnett County Public School System. The school district is serving more than 180,000 students. 1 out of every 5 Gwinnett County residents is a GCPS student. And so when we talk about large school districts, Gwinnett County is the definition of a large school district. So the implications of this election are really, really strong. And several of you in your introductions have alluded to some of the concerns and some of the things that you'd like to see from the Gwinnett County School Board in relation to our public school system here in Gwinnett. So with that in mind, our first question, and we will send this question to Carol Boyce. Our very first question is, what do you feel are the major challenges facing your district and how are you prepared to address them?
Well, thank you for that question. Some of the major challenges are, I think we would have to say right now that it certainly would be how we are responding to the COVID-19 crisis. It is very, very widespread, obviously, and yet it is very crucial that our students continue to get the best education that they can. And I feel that what we are providing right now with the online and the in-person learning really is meeting that the best way that we can, because the families who feel like their students need to be at home completely have that option. The other option is for the students to be in person, and as you know, we are gradually phasing that in. This past week we had the kindergartners, first grade, sixth, ninth, and special needs students in the building. I did have the opportunity to visit 4 schools over the last couple of, some yesterday, over the last few days. And I was really pleased to see the various safety measures that are in place. I know that this is something that is very concerning to all of us. Some of our teachers are concerned about how are we going to do all of this. So I think right now the major challenge that we are all dealing with is how do we best handle the COVID crisis and yet continue to provide the best services for our students while keeping our students safe, keeping our teachers safe, and making all the adjustments that we can. It is a very trying time. I understand that, but I think we are making the very best choices, and we certainly welcome any suggestions or any opportunities. I know my phone, my email, my various methods of communication are out there, and I would love to hear from anybody else if you have any comments, questions, concerns, or suggestions, because we are all trying the very, very best that we can. So thank you.
Thank you for that. Next, for that same question, we will go to Karen Watkins, and I will repeat that question for you, Karen. What do you feel are the major challenges facing your district, and how are you prepared to address them?
I feel the major challenges we have today in our district, and I'll have to agree with Carol here, is number one, how we are dealing, how our district is currently dealing with the pandemic, and especially with the return to school issues. Number two, equity and justice, and not being able to bring equity and justice throughout the school system and equal opportunity to all students, which is apparent within our disciplinary within what we currently, how our disciplinary policies are run today, as well as you can see in our, dealings with SROs, the school to prison pipeline, as well as just simple equity, our large class sizes, and helping to ensure all our children have the same opportunities to achieve. And the way I would deal with this as a school board member, if I were on a school board today, I would ensure transparency, oversight, and accountability of our school system. Those 3 mechanisms right there would help us through this pandemic if we were transparent in knowing who was helping to work through these plans. Are you including our community stakeholders? Are we able, how can we deal with this pandemic together as a community so we don't have schools shut down, so we're able to accommodate all our parents' needs? In addition, with reference to equity and justice, and excuse me, here goes a little baby. I'm sorry. In addition, with reference, one second, maybe let me answer this. This is my daughter, Morgan. Hello, everyone. My apologies, but she just wants to say hi, I think. In addition, for us, in how I would deal with the equity and justice component is having transparency to the numbers and data that show that we are having issues in those in that arena, being transparent with our financials, making sure all of our community stakeholders have that opportunity to review all of that, ensuring our POs are able to break out all this information that we need, not just have these discussions of breaking out information and financials to us and understanding our spend now. These are things we should have been doing all along for 15 years, as well as having oversight for our school system and holding our school system accountable. Yeah. And having our school system, I'm sorry, my apologies, everyone. Working mom with children.
Okay. We have it.
Chili, yes, thank you. And then also oversight and accountability, holding our school system accountable for the hiccups that do occur and showing our community that we are doing something. I think these things are opportunities that we have for the future. I think that we, as a school board member, I promise you, I will bring this to our school board. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that answer there. And in the days of COVID, as someone that works from home as well, the kids love the camera. So what a beautiful family. With that in mind, let's move to our next person to answer that question, and that would be Dr. Mary Kay Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Harris, very much. Well, I'm certainly going to be in the majority in pointing out the big problem facing our school system and certainly our district has been COVID and the recovery from COVID. I'd like to point out, because I think it's so terribly important when we hear people say, we haven't done anything, or what have we done with our time since the spring? We've done a tremendous amount in the school system, and it has to do with what we learned. We always can learn more, better, differently in our school system. And what have we learned from our experience with especially online learning in the spring, and what have we done now to make the kinds of changes that we have very much wanted to make? I'd like to begin by saying what I have done. I supported the changes to the initial plan for face-to-face and online learning, not because of politics, but because of the moral imperative the decision required. That is to say, the health of our students and the health of our faculty and staff. Based on the latest information on June 25th, the superintendent recommended in-person and online learning, resulting from a survey of families in the spring. 55% wanted in-person learning and 45% wanted online learning. On July 20th, based on the changes in the latest health information, the superintendent recommended online learning only. On August 4th, the superintendent recommended both in-person and online learning with students who would return on a staggered basis beginning August 12th. And that staggered basis is well underway. All teachers are to work from schools except those affected by COVID. And now that's a very important thing to hear and understand.
Looks like we have some delay on Dr. Murphy's end. Is everyone else able to still hear and see?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Harris. Please let me know if you can. August 26th.
You're good to go now, Dr. Murphy.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you so much. August 26th, kindergarten through grade 1, 6, and 9. That will happen this week. In-person learning. Please excuse me. In-person learning as well as self-contained special education students. By September 2nd, grades 2, 3, 6, 7, 9, 10, and all self-contained classrooms will be in person. And by the day after Labor Day, all grades will be in person, except those opting for online. And right now, 51% are opting for online and 49% for in person. And as Mrs. Boyce has said, I have visited and been extremely pleased to see what I have found in the schools in District 3 that I have visited. It's exciting to see the transparency that is available. It's exciting to see the hand sanitizing and the masks and the care of the students and the faculty members. And so I think that is something terribly important to share with you, what I have done. Now, another issue, and I'm going to speak to it very briefly. I'm sure that I have been engaged since 2010 in working with our superintendent and our board to establish programs of racial equity. In 2010, that was a very important year because it was the first year we were named the best urban public school system in the nation. The key programs that I've been a part of in terms of equity and justice, the Human Resource Advisory Committee to bring diversity to our faculty and administrative ranks of GCPS. The GCPS Mentoring Program, now in its 15th year and inclusive of Black males, Hispanic males, and Hispanic females. Over 1,500 students have been engaged in that. Our school resource officers are the major instrument of establishing school and student safety. And our ethnic studies program, to be introduced in 2020 and beyond, are among the initiatives that I have supported.
Please wrap.
I really
we are right at our time.
No, I appreciate your question, Mr. Harris, and I'll come back to this topic hopefully in the rest of the program. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Next, we will have Tanisha Banks. And just to refresh our audience, that question was, what do you feel are the major challenges facing your district, and how are you prepared to address them?
Okay, major challenges facing the district. First of all, let's rewind how we ended up in this situation right now. If we had a pandemic committee already established prior to 2019, we would have seen this coming. Because we did not have that committee in place in any school, it hit us off guard. Regardless what was going on in the world today, the schools should have been on guard in reference to knowing what is going on, what's going on overseas, to make sure that any type of pandemic that is headed our way, we would know far more in advance, because we do have 180,000 students here, and we do have a very large school district. So it is imperative that we know what is coming. And unfortunately, we did not. So that put us at a disadvantage to having to abruptly stop in-person learning in March because of this pandemic. The challenge that we face now in reference to the pandemic is having a clear, comprehensive plan and data in order to suffice us going back into the classroom. We are having in-person learning during more numbers now than we did when we first shut school down in March, and that is unacceptable. If we in March had lower numbers than we do now and we were not in school, I just don't understand why we are back in school face to face and our numbers are even higher than then. And we also see that we have schools closing because of this, because of the asymptomatic students and teachers that are infecting other students and teachers in the classroom. We must understand that this infection rate is going to start on the buses. We cannot social distance on buses. That is a major issue. That is the first issue that we needed to actually find out how this was going to work. And because of logistics, it is unable to work. So we have to make hard choices and decisions as leaders for the best interest of our community, our students, and our teachers. And that is one major issue that we are facing today that we still have to take into consideration, because it is fluid and ongoing. How are we going to make sure that all students, teachers, and faculty are safe in the middle of this horrific pandemic?
Thank you. Next, we'll ask that question to Dr. Therese Johnson. And that is, what do you feel are the
Hi.
major challenges facing your district, and how are you prepared to address them?
The major challenges facing my district in particular, and all of our districts, is right now, the imminent challenge is COVID-19. It's ensuring that our students and our teachers and our administrators are all safe. We do not want not one death on our watch. And so, having said that, I understand, as a mother with children who are participating in digital learning, as an educator with a small learning pod supporting single moms here in my home, I also know the challenges of digital learning. I want to always lead with empathy. So I say this to my constituents. I feel the pain of the digital learning. I understand how challenging it is. But I also want to say to you all that for me, more than digital learning or face-to-face, it is ensuring that every single student, parent, teacher, and administrator is safe. We have data that already says, as Tanisha pointed out, schools are closing. We have data that's already indicating that children are asymptomatic. Some of them, they're passing on the virus to teachers that could possibly pass on the virus to their elderly parents or family members. And it's really really risky. And for me, life is more valuable than grades and than digital learning or face-to-face. So right now, I just encourage everyone to really be flexible, to take care of yourselves, to do what you can for those who have to work. My district predominantly, we have working families, we have single parents, we have people who have to go to work. They cannot leave their children alone. So we have them, they made the decision to send their children to school. What I want to say to you all is, do whatever you can to keep your children safe. Make sure they have the proper mask, the proper PPE. To our teachers, make sure, because many of them are teaching digital at the same time they're face-to-face. That's challenging in itself. But I also want to say to our teachers to do what you can to make sure you are safe. If you look like an astronaut and you buy your own PPE equipment, do that, because you have to protect your family. You have to protect your life. And so I want to say the biggest challenge right now is COVID. The next challenge is, for my district in particular, it's heavily Title I, right? And so what that means for us is there's an opportunity for us to meet the needs of our students in District 5 by providing early education. I'm a huge supporter of learning and educating our children at an early age to make sure, especially the people who are learning English as a second language, that we provide the support and the access for their parents and for our students. I also believe before and after school programs can help bridge the educational gap that we have, and it can help increase equity here in our district. So using Title I funds and other private funding and collaborative partnership to engage in before and after school programs to bridge that learning gap, to provide academic support, to make sure that every student is successful and academically, and that they have other enrichment services to ensure that they can contribute to the American society. The other thing I think we have an opportunity in our district is, because my district is predominantly Hispanic and Black, our students, our parents need to be seen, heard, and valued and celebrated. I mentioned this earlier, and we know that there's a gap in education and discipline. And I was just going to talk about school discipline around the disproportionality, around addressing the needs and ensuring that the disproportionality around discipline is reduced. So I'm sure we'll have an opportunity to talk about that later.
You absolutely will. We have some questions directly in relation to that. So thank you so much. All right. Well, thank all of you for that, for your answer to that question. And it looks like we have someone jumping into our broadcast room. So I'm just going to call you out by name. Debbie, I've kicked you out a couple of times, and I'm going to kick you out one more time. If you could watch us live on Facebook, on the Gwinnett NAACP Facebook, that would be super awesome. Thank you. All right, so with that in mind, we do have another question. And Dr. Johnson, I'm actually going to start with you on this question because it led right into what you were just talking about. According to data from GwinnettStop.org, African American students make up 31% of GCPS students. However, African American students represent 47.8% of in-school suspensions, 49.5% of out-of-school suspension, and 48.3% of expulsions. First question is, were you aware of this large disparity as it pertains to African American students? And second, what is your plan to address it? And we will be right at 1 minute for this question. So when you see me come back on, that means it is time to pass the mic. Go ahead, Dr. Johnson.
Okay, great. Thank you for the opportunity to answer that question. First of all, yes, I'm absolutely aware of this data. And again, as I mentioned before, my district is heavily Hispanic and Black. And we have many of our students who are pushed into the school to prison pipeline. And the reasoning is varied. First, I can say when we have 80% of our teachers who do not have cultural competency or have gaps around really engaging, Black and brown students and understanding their background and understanding who they are, we may have some challenges around how we manage their behavior. And if we can address that by continuous education around implicit biases, around education to teach our teachers and administrators on how to manage behavior that may be different from theirs, that they might not quite understand, then I think that can help in the school to prison pipeline and the disproportionality. The other thing we can do is look at how we're using our SROs. SROs is one of the gateways to the school to prison pipeline. So there is opportunity. Again, I represent my district and I have to continue to engage in conversations around my district and what they prefer. But what I can say is my personal opinion around SROs is that we have an opportunity to look at their roles, to disengage, to abolish what is currently existing and reimagine a new way on how we can creatively address the issues that our children have in our schools. And that could mean investing in counselors, investing in different creative ways on managing behavior like yoga, meditation. We already have national data around the US that supports the benefits of managing the trauma and managing the inequities that our children deal with in a way that doesn't necessarily push them in a pipeline, but it gives them the skills they need to be able to deal with sort of the stresses of life. And so I'm in support of that, and I hope that we can continue to look at those ways and how we can end the school to prison pipeline and reduce the disproportionality.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And I want to give one clarifying piece of information as it pertains to in-school suspension, out-of-school suspension, and expulsions. This is one of those areas where it isn't fully a Black and brown issue. It is a Black issue. When you look at these numbers, if you look in the Latinx community, the suspensions and expulsions go right along with their rates of population in the county. Whereas for Black students, it is far greater than our population in the county. You're talking about almost 50%. 48% of the expulsions, while we only represent 31% of the district. So I will be very specific with this because this is not a Black and brown issue. It's not a people of color issue. This is a Black issue specifically facing Black students. So with that in mind, I'll ask the same question to Tanisha Banks. So Tanisha, that question was African American students make up 31% of GCPS students. However, they represent 47% of in-school suspensions, 48.5% of out-of-school suspensions, and 48.3% of expulsions. One, were you aware of this disparity? And two, how do you plan to address it?
Yes, thank you. I am very aware of this disparity because I actually work at a trauma-informed alternative center that deals with all of the panels for these students in Gwinnett County. So I actually teach these students that have been paneled out and sent to my school. And I must say that my school is filled with
Looks like we lost Ms. Banks there. And so we will go to Dr. Murphy. So Dr. Murphy, please take that question and we'll come right back to you, Ms. Banks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Harris. I appreciate the question. I appreciate the opportunity to discuss it in this forum. Well, I'd like to share that most recently in the last year, our superintendent appointed a panel, an advisory committee for our discipline code to try to determine what our community believes about our discipline code. And it was comprised of a number of leading African American and minority ministers and community members who worked up to the COVID interruption. They've had to suspend their work, but at our most recent board meeting, it was determined that this committee will continue as an implementation committee. And the Reverend Avery Head of Poplar Hills has taken on the leadership of that group. It's a terribly important committee because it helps us understand from leaders in the community their view of whether or not these statistics are fair, incorrect, what we can do indeed if they are, how can we do more, better, differently. For 15 years, we've had a mentoring program of African American boys, of now Hispanic males and Hispanic females. And this has been an extremely successful program for bringing not only students, but many of their family members into our public school system so that the students can get the kind of understanding and support that they might need to be successful in our public school system. Most importantly, we have the Positive Behavior Intervention Support Program in 104 of our 141 schools. This is a counseling program that has had great success in our school system, bringing students to understand they would be encouraged by positive behavior and not disciplined for negative behavior. In terms of our school resource officers, many say it would be great for them to do counseling, that it would be great for them to advise the students.
We're at time.
Sir,
please wrap.
I'll be glad to wrap. Since 2015, our school resource officers have provided 8,330 classes of counseling for our students. They are already playing a very great role there. And in terms of in-school suspensions, they decreased from 2019 to 2020 by 6,496 detentions. And the out-of-school suspensions decreased by 3,534. These are very important statistics because we continue to ask, what are the facts and what are the data? I'll be glad, Mr. Harris, to speak to this in another segment. Thank you for allowing me to provide the information.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'd also like to ask a follow-up question because you spoke to, one of the things that you spoke to on this particular question was the data correct? And you also spoke to in terms of behavior. And for me, what that implies is that that you have more misbehaved Black children than white children. And I don't necessarily believe that to be the case. So I'd like to ask you, how did it get this out of hand to where half of the expulsions are Black kids?
Mr. Harris, I don't mean to suggest in any way that there's a misbehaving approach on the part of any students in our school system. Please excuse me. Including our Black students. I certainly have no intention of making that point. And when I mentioned about the data, I don't dispute the data. what I think is very important is for us as a community to work together with our Chief Equity Officer, Dr. Tommy Welsh, and with our Chief Discipline Officer, Mr. Eric Thigpen, so that we might understand better what the nature of these figures are, and so that our community can understand, are there disparities? If there are, what might we need to be doing about them? And if there are not disparities, what might we do to advance this program to make sure the community is with us in terms of the work we're doing in our school system? And I'd like to commend Ms. Banks for her work at the Give Center West. That's a terribly important component of the school options that we have for our students to make certain that they have every opportunity to succeed in our school system. It's a very important endeavor, and I want to salute it. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Harris.
you. Thank you. All right, so we will send this next, send that over to Karen Watkins. So same question, what's up with the disparities that we see along racial lines as it pertains to in-school suspensions, expulsions, and discipline as a whole?
I'm happy to answer this question. So let me go ahead and give some background here, a little bit of background. So over the last 15 to 20 years, Gwinnett's demographic has changed dramatically, right? We all know this. And a lot of our school board members have been here over the last 15 to 20 years, okay? And we definitely have become much more diverse. And this is where you may be seeing some of these, where we're seeing now, Black children in the system with some of the different problems. So, and I'll address some of what Mary Kay was talking about there. However, okay, because of the way our policies are written and things of that nature, and I'm going to go back, our county has become more diverse. However, our policies haven't really changed. They should change more to exercise more discipline, okay? And also, if it did change, it changed to exercise more discipline. And there's probably because of lack of understanding in some areas, like, cultural areas where we need more improvement in. And also some things that haven't really changed is our school board and our superintendent. That has remained the same. And this discipline issue doesn't go back to just 2015. It's just when, something was actually really addressed in 2015. It's taken years for our school board and superintendent to want to even seriously look at discipline policies and procedures, given that our community has begged for it. We literally begged for it. And I know, because I am a parent of 2 children, Black students in this system. I'm a part of the begging, okay? So we have literally begged for this because those policies directly affect our children and their experience in school. And that's one of the things I'm running on, having that nurturing environment for all of our students. Discipline, ladies here. And discipline is one of those things where we have to address because of having a nurturing environment. Now, if I were on the school board, how would I address that? First, I would ensure that everyone is extremely self-aware that we do have this issue of discipline of a discipline problem, and it does attach to primarily students of color, but even more primarily Black students. So we first have to understand that is the first thing we need to really understand and say it out loud. This is an issue primarily for students of color and even more primarily for Black students first. Then
we're at time.
I'm sorry. I'll just wrap up. Then we go towards professional development, culturally relevant training, so that they can help out everyone. Explicit lessons on race and conflict resolution. This is where we get the de-escalating factors so that maybe we can reduce the amount of SROs that are in the system and get more counselors and social workers to help us out through this. And making awareness that there is racial bias impacts in discipline. The end. Thank you all for the opportunity.
Thank you for that answer. Next, we'll send this question to Mrs. Boyce.
Hello, thank you. And yes, I was aware of these numbers. Our discipline code that has been in place since several years ago, I think, when Dr. James Taylor was in charge of our discipline overall, it was put in place at that point. And the main idea behind it was that it was the action or the infraction, whatever it was to the rule, that was being looked at. However, it did not necessarily mean who or what the child looked like, but if that particular offense did occur, that was an infraction, and that's what was going to be looked at. However, our principals, our teachers, do have the opportunity to be very fair and to look at the individual and look at the individual situation as to how this should be handled. We care very deeply. Our people, our personnel are very understanding of children, and they understand that discipline is just what it is. Every child who is in school does have the right to learn, and to learn fairly, and to learn safely. And another child does not have the opportunity to interfere with another student's learning. So that's the idea behind discipline. We are still trying to make sure that the students do have the best opportunity. If someone does cause an infraction of the rules, it is looked at in many different ways, and we also the PBIS training is tremendous, and also our SROs are there not to discipline. They are there as teachers. They are there to be a help for the students. They are community police at its best. And we talk about the SROs, we sometimes forget the fact that there are threats out there. We think about some of the school shootings that have occurred in other systems, and just the very thought of not having the SROs in place really, I think, is very alarming to many of our parents out there. So can we add more counselors? Can we do more from that standpoint? Should we be looking out for our individual students? Yes, we certainly should. And our students are the key. Thank you.
Thank you. And we will go to Tanisha Banks to wrap up this section. So Tanisha, same question for you. And it's around disparities in expulsions, suspensions, out of school suspensions around Black kids in the district.
Okay, great. Like I said before I got cut off, was I work at the Trauma Informed Alternative Center, which is a majority Black and Brown population, where students are paneled to my school for a particular amount of time. You are absolutely correct with the disproportionality of Black students who attend my school. And the problem occurs when I see special education students who have been paneled to my school, where I research or find out that they're on my caseload, find out why they're there, and really am puzzled why they were sent to my school instead of them their disability being a manifestation of their disability. Because if you're a special education teacher, you know that certain students are going to express certain behaviors in the classroom. And as a special ed teacher, you are going to know how to deal with that student. I get a lot of special ed students that are paneled to me, and it is usually for classroom disruption, which is very subjective, based on what the teacher sees and what the teacher writes and how the administrator handles the paneling, if it's a panelable offense, or how many times the record of that particular student, which is taken into consideration if they have a history of behavioral issues. The way that we solve that problem, implicit bias. We need to make sure that our teachers understand the students which sit before them in their classrooms, establishing behaviors, knowing the students, knowing their plight, knowing the situations that they're going through at home that may display behavioral issues in the classroom. That is when the mental health counselors come in, the counselors at the school, which we do not have. In my trauma-informed school, we just received a
Please wrap.
counselor last year. That is a problem to me. So we need to make sure that we have all of these resources available to our students so we can decrease discipline.
Thank you. Thank you for that. We're going to move to another question here that we're going to have another moderator, Adrian Johnson, push there. But I want to make sure our audience knows that this data is available. This data is disturbing. And as a member of the Gwinnett NAACP, it needs to change immediately. So whoever in this room becomes a member of the school board, we are going to be holding you accountable to make sure that Black students are treated fairly in this district. And the data tells us that we have failed our Black students in this area. We have failed our Black students in providing equity and discipline. And we're looking at each and every one of you to do something different and to make Gwinnett the place it needs to be for Black students. With that in mind, Adrian Johnson, if you can bring in our next set of questions. I think you're still muted there.
Can you hear me now?
I can.
Okay, great. Our first question is, do you feel there is an opportunity for Gwinnett County Public Schools to increase transparency in hiring practices and disciplinary action? And part two, will you commit to increasing transparency in these areas? Let's start with Ms. Carol Boyce for this question.
Okay, the question is, how do we increase transparency in discipline matters and also in hiring practices? I was not aware that there is a problem with this. I think any information that is out there should be available to anyone who is willing to ask that question. Hiring practices, we are constantly looking for good teachers. We are really would love to have more multicultural teachers to meet the needs of our students. There may not be as many in the pool out there that we can get, but if there are well-qualified teachers, we certainly would like them. We go to colleges all over. We look at different groups. We are all over the place trying to get the best possible teachers that we can for our students. So if there are specific transparencies that are not out there, I am not aware of them, and I would love to hear what your specific comments are on that. In terms of the discipline measures being not transparent, again, I don't see why. What information is it that people would want to know? Simeon, I know you mentioned the information there, and you want to make sure that the data is accountable and that we are very aware that we need to change what is happening with some of our Black students. And we are, again, very amenable to that. We are looking for additional ways to continue with the mentoring program. Sometimes many of these students just need to have a buddy. They may need to have a role model, and the mentoring program is an excellent way to do that. So, and also we talked a little bit about the positive behavior programs, and those are good ways too. But all of our personnel need to be very aware of what the individual needs are of the students, whatever they are, whether that's considered equity, whether that's just being a good teacher, whether that's working for the students, whatever it is. But our students need to be our first and foremost inspiration. Thanks.
Ms. Boyce, just to let you know, there is a lack of transparency in both of these areas, in hiring practices and in disciplinary action. And since you are not aware of those transparencies, I just want to ask you right now if you would be willing to commit to increasing the transparency in these areas. I won't go into specifics right now, but just to follow up with the statement that you made, there is, in fact, a lack of transparency in hiring practices and in disciplinary action. And just as a candidate, we just want to make sure that you would be willing to commit to increasing transparency in these areas.
I certainly would be. And if you want to bring any of your specific questions to me, I'll be happy to look into them. Please tell me, and I will be happy to look into it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we'll go to Ms. Karen Watkins. Ms. Watkins, I'll be glad to repeat the question. And the questions are, do you feel that there is an opportunity for Gwinnett County Public Schools to increase transparency in hiring practices and in disciplinary action? And will you commit to increasing transparency in these areas?
Yes and yes. And maybe you could even expand a question out to asking, how will you act? Just because I commit or someone commits doesn't mean they're actually going to act in a timely manner to help improve the situation. So with reference to that, I'll tell you how I would act as well. So with reference to this question, improving the transparency, yes, there's an opportunity, a plethora of opportunity to improve the transparency in a majority of ways with how we spend our money, with also both the hiring practices and data, any type of data. And let me tell you why there is an opportunity for improving the transparency. As of today, in many instances, you have to try to consolidate the data on your own. And believe me, I know, because we have teams working on trying to work on that. Consolidate the data on your own, go through GOSHA, try to get that data all together, or go through open records to get that data, where it should be fully available right on our website, ready for us to access. Easy accessibility is an opportunity today, especially on how we spend our money. But then we'll go back to the hiring practices. I will work to ensure nepotistic behavior is not prevalent in our school system. Things that do need to be transparent: if our cousin is going to work, if our daughter or nephew or grandchild are they going to work in our system, those things need to be vetted out. Our public needs to know, especially in leadership positions. Our public needs to know this information. Because we are a county-wide, it's a county-wide, it's taxpayers' money. We need to understand how we are spending that money and who we're spending it on, and if these people are truly qualified to fill those positions. So yes, there is a great need to have that transparency for our constituents, and our constituents are calling for this, and I will bring that to them. And the way you do that is by oversight and accountability. These are things our school board can do, is having oversight and accountability with our school system, meeting the requirements of the community, and I will be a part of that and helping to ensure that you can hold me accountable. You can hold me accountable and make sure that these things come to fruition. Thank you.
Let her in.
Thank you so much, Ms. Watkins. Next, we'll have the question to Dr. Murphy. And I will repeat the question. Do you feel there is an opportunity for GCPS to increase transparency in hiring practices and disciplinary action? And will you commit to increasing this transparency in these areas?
Thank you very much, Ms. Johnson, for your question, and thank you for repeating it. That's very helpful. I'd like to point out that under Dr. Monica Batiste, who is the in our forgive me, there's an interruption here at my house. If you might come back to me, I would appreciate it, or in just 1 minute. Thank you. Quite frankly, I've got an older daughter than we saw a little bit earlier with Dr. And this is a daughter's doesn't have a key to our house. She's trying to find a way to get in. My husband's going to go to the door and answer it for her. So just apologies for that kind of an interruption. Let me go back to Dr. Monica Batiste. That she is the director of our talent management and human resources program. Under her leadership, we have a program that I think is very important for us as board members, certainly, but certainly us as community members to understand that the hiring practice at the local school level is a terribly important component of this. Local principals have the authority to hire at the local level, and they are reliant on the central office to provide a very accurate and a great understanding of what the qualifications are for the applicant. And privacy is a matter of great consideration here. So I just want to point out to you, not to you, but to myself and all of us, that this is a very important component of understanding the hiring practice. That the county is very engaged in finding ways to increase our pool of teachers because of and staff members and bus drivers, and so we must be very transparent, but at the same time very cautious of the privacy issues. We are so blessed in our community and in our county school system that we have the opportunity for individuals in our school system to advance their careers within our school system and not have to leave. And I would cite the programs that we have for teachers who want to become aspiring assistant principals, and the assistant principals who want to become principals, and the district center, the central office staff who want to become.
Thank you so much, Dr. Murphy. I do want to point out the fact that something that you mentioned about the principals having the authority to hire and fire at the local level. That's something very important for parents and other staff, teachers to know. I'm sure teachers know, but I think it's very important for the community to know that that is something that happens at the local level. But again, I think that it's very important that information such as that is made more public, made more aware on your website or through other types of communication.
And Ms. Johnson, if I might, I don't mean to interrupt you, but just to point out that they have the authority to hire at the local level. The firing or the dismissal has a different procedure altogether. Certainly the principals engaged in it. But I would agree with you. These are very important components. And if our community finds a way that we might want to increase the transparency, this kind of a forum is a very helpful one because it gives us an understanding of the ways we can work together. And again, I keep using the 3 words: more, better, differently. Thank you for your input, and thank you for allowing me to give that information.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next, we'll go to Ms. Tanisha Banks. Ms. Banks, I'll repeat the question. Do you feel that there is an opportunity for Gwinnett County Public Schools to increase transparency in hiring practices and disciplinary action? And will you commit to increasing this transparency in these areas? Did we lose Ms. Banks?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Did you need me to repeat the question, Ms. Banks?
I see it on my screen. Yes, there is an opportunity to increase transparency in hiring practices and disciplinary actions because that is one of my platforms: accountability and transparency. We must make sure that the community is able to find any kind of data that they choose via the internet. We just, during this pandemic, and if it wasn't for the pandemic, it probably wouldn't have happened, but we just put all the school board meetings virtually. And that's shameful.
Okay, maybe we need to come back to Ms. Banks, I'm sorry, and maybe move on to Dr. Johnson.
Hi. The question is, do I commit to increasing transparency? Absolutely. I agree with Tanisha. Transparency and accountability are critical for the GCPS school system. And I request for all of my constituents to please reach out to me, hold me accountable, and let's work together to figure out what are the best ways to ensure that they are informed and that we are transparent in our operations and in the decisions we make, in our policies and procedures and everything. And just like Tanisha Banks, Miss Tanisha Banks mentioned earlier, we just now have the school board online. I think that's great. I think in particular for people who are single parents, who are working parents, who can never make it to the board meeting, I think it's a great opportunity for us to participate when we could not participate before because of our lifestyles. And now everyone has access and the opportunity to participate online and even call online and make a statement. So I just think that is an excellent move on our part with the Gwinnett County Schools. But I think we need to continue to do things like that to increase transparency. Ensuring that our data is accurate is another way we have to continuously vet and make sure that we are sourcing information and we're doing the best thing that we can to make sure that the data is updated and accurate. Regarding transparency and recruitment, and one of the things I can say here is actually three things. One is it's important for us to have transparency in hiring and firing. That's one. Number two is we must do strategic recruitment and engagement regarding ensuring that there's diversity representation in our teacher pool, in our administrative pool. It's important for the students to see themselves in leadership, to see themselves in the education system and in the teachers who are educating them. It's important for all of our teachers to engage in anti-racism training. And this is just a part of, because we know a lot of our teachers are, 80% don't look like, Black and brown kids. They're, white. And these teachers are awesome. But I think there still is an opportunity for us to engage in anti-racism training to ensure transparency and to ensure that we are reducing the disproportionality of school discipline related to our Black students being pushed to the school prison pipeline. And then again, to continue to make sure that our job descriptions are transparent to avoid nepotism and to ensure that we have a diverse talent pool. We have to ensure that we have highly qualified diversity representation in our teacher pool and our leadership pool. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Johnson. Now, if we can go back to Ms. Banks. Are you there, Ms. Banks?
I'm here. I have to talk fast because you never know when I'm going to get cut off. Okay. Transparency. Yes. Data. Very important. Our constituents should be able to pull up any type of information that they need via website on the Gwinnett County website, and it should be easily accessible. In reference to accurate data and numbers, also need to be shown to the public as well. As far as discipline, transparency, absolutely. We also need to make sure that our pool of teachers and the way that they are being hired represents our district. We have over 50-60% of our teachers are not minority teachers in a majority minority county. That is a problem. We need to make sure that all of our students have teachers that represent them in the classroom. And we can also take data to see if the discipline decreases because of the differences of the teachers that are in the classroom that are teaching the students. We also need to make sure that we have transparency in that hiring practice to make sure that we have teachers in all of our districts that meet the needs of each student and that are culturally aware of the students that are sitting in their classrooms. In reference to this, the data and the transparency that I had to get into didn't get to say before. We have a lot of committees in Gwinnett County that are given for different instances, just like this disciplinary committee that was instituted.
Prepare to wrap, please.
Instituted, but we also had a committee prior to that was made to try to figure out this discrepancy of discipline. We need action instead of committees. We already know that it's a problem and we need to have it fixed.
Thank you so much, Ms. Banks. Now we will turn it over to Ms. Amira Lawson with our next question.
Thank you, Adrian, and thank you, candidates, for being here tonight. This has been a very valuable discussion.
Excuse me. I know this is really not expected, but I just had a question that is pertinent to Adrian's, and it was a follow-up 30-second. And I was just so slow, because we were talking about transparency, we were talking about equity, about biases and committees that have been put into place. As our incumbents were talking, I remember being a part of a deposition where both Dr. Murphy and school board member Boyce were on record the deposition, saying that they had no opinion about how segregation affected the Gwinnett County schools. And really, truly, this question is popping up because it was in 2017, so not long ago. And both, and per written and sworn deposition that we have on file, both your responses regarding equity, fairness, whether these numbers are skewed, whether these numbers are correct. So in light of all of that, how do you both feel about the segregation that happened in the county? Because in 2017, neither of you gave responses.
Mrs. Poole, if you'd be so kind, your transmission was breaking up and I didn't hear the earlier part of your question. Would you be so kind to repeat it?
Penny just sent it to me, so I will read that. Both you and Mrs. Boyce are two incumbents here, under sworn deposition stated that you had no opinion on whether segregated schools were the right thing to do. Do you still have that opinion in 2020? And we'll start with Dr. Murphy.
Well, I'm very concerned to hear about this because I don't have any point of reference. I hear it as a deposition, but I don't have a point of reference. So I don't want to speak about that. I will say to you a separate answer and a response today, Mrs. Poole, in answer to your question. I do not believe in segregated schools. I do not believe in segregated schools in the past, in the present, or in the future. I believe that all students have the right to a free and appropriate public education if their parents so choose to utilize the services of the public schools. All students have the right to a free and appropriate public education that is free of racial bias, that is free of discrimination, that is free of incrimination, and that interferes in any way with their ability to live a prosperous and happy adult life following their experience in our school system. I have not supported segregation in the past. I think if you can look at my record of working at Morehouse School of Medicine and Morris Brown College for 20 years, that wouldn't be a question you would ask me at all, because that was the highlight of my working experience, working in an environment where I had an opportunity to make a contribution to the lives of students who'd never have a chance to go to college, of students who'd never have a chance to go to medical school, of faculty members who were caught in the research trap of not being able to find support for their particular studies. when we were sitting on an absolute wonderful resource for our community, and still are. As COVID is taking place, where can we find a better answer to health disparities than Morehouse School of Medicine?
Okay, let me give reference to this question. The Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under the Law in 2017 had a deposition and was suing the Gwinnett County Board of Education. During those depositions, in which I sat personally in on those depositions, the question was asked whether or not segregation was a good thing in Gwinnett County, or how you felt against it. It is, we have sworn deposition with that information and responses. And at that time in 2017, the responses were for both of you who were being, again, sued by the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under the Law. The statement was you had no opinion on segregation and if it was a good thing for Gwinnett County schools.
Mrs. Poole, I've given you the best answer that I can, and I don't recall that question in 2017, and I don't have a lawyer here with me to represent myself, and I didn't expect that our discussion this afternoon was going to move in this direction. So I have no comment about what I said under oath, and I'm not certain, quite frankly, that I should discuss it in public because it was a matter of privacy. Thank you, Mrs. Poole.
Okay. Thank you for your response. Mrs. Boyce, would you like to respond to that question? We can't hear you.
I think you're muted there, Mrs. Boyce.
I have no recollection of that, and I cannot, in any capacity, think that segregated schools would be appropriate in any way. I think we have a much stronger system because our schools are so diverse. We learn from each other. We have a tremendous opportunity to provide the best possible education for all students by learning from one another. So by segregating ourselves in any capacity, that everyone loses in that method. I don't know why that would have come out, but I too have no recollection of that. And again, we do not have legal representation here if that's what we feel like we need. I think our purpose here today is to see what we can do and how we can work together to provide what's best for the students of Gwinnett County. And in my estimation, that's a direction that we should all head.
I do understand. And one of the reasons for the lawsuit was because in 2017, Gwinnett County Board of Education was all white. So that was one reason why the Lawyers Committee brought the lawsuit, asked these questions. So this is just transparency again that we're speaking about. It's not to put you on shout out. It's about just getting facts. And that's a part of the problem in Gwinnett County, is that there has not been transparency, and there has not been data, and there has not been information. When you go through open records requests, you cannot get information unless they make you pay exorbitant amount of monies. So all these questions that we have been asking, the only way people have been able to get responses is through having to pay for this information that should be public and transparent. So,
Mrs. Poole, if I might just make one comment.
Let me finish. I would just like to finish.
Oh, forgive me. I'm so sorry.
No problem. And again, it is not to put you on the spot, but as an incumbent, both of you who had years of experience on this board, these questions are in the minds of so many families. You know, why is it so hard to get information? Why only in 2018 did we just get the board integrated with the election of Everton Blair? So these are some disturbing questions. So they're not meant to put you on the spot, but they are meant to just ask the question that's on everyone's mind. And that's what this forum is, for transparency, honesty, and for us to talk as a community so that we can all get better understanding.
Well, Mrs. Poole, if I might just make one very brief answer. I took an oath as a member of the school board that I would abide by the law. Segregation is against the law. And all my years on the school board, I have done everything I could possibly do to make certain that all students, all races, had the opportunity for the best education possible. And I would share with you that we have many examples of the transparency that we do have in our school system. And perhaps before the evening is over, I'll have an opportunity to share that back with you. But thank you for providing this forum, and thank you again for that question. If it's on people's minds, we want to address it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Amira, excuse me for interrupting you. And if you would like to go forward, please go forward with our forum. Thank you.
That's okay, President Poole. You can interrupt me anytime.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So I'm going to turn our discussion towards COVID-19. And my first question, I'm going to ask Ms. Watkins. According to the district's own data, hundreds of staff and students have tested positive or have been exposed to COVID-19. Do you feel the decisions of the school board during the COVID-19 pandemic have put our students, teachers, and staff at risk? How can that risk be mitigated? That's a question for Ms. Watkins.
Thank you. Yes. So the behavior I have seen today, and this is just for background, the behavior I have seen today is a more of a reactionary behavior. Okay, where with reaction, we could, and planning based off of reaction could cause disruption. Disruption for those who want to go in school or those who want to go virtual. Okay, the reaction comes from many petitions, many protests, many of those things. Those things could have been mitigated by simply always being engaged with your community stakeholders to come up with a strategy to work with them, so that we could get the input from our community stakeholders to build plans that are more strategic to help the school system. We could give the requirements to the school system that would be plans that could be more strategic and actually a plan, not something that's of reaction. Now that's just some background based off of what I am seeing today as a parent. Everything is very reactive, and this is feedback I've also gotten from other parents and also teachers. Now, with reference to COVID-19, a part of these plans, and this is where we work with our community, is understanding whether or not we should just open schools at all. And why what are the factors that are prohibiting opening of schools? Understanding the community spread is critical. When we're the number one state in the United States of America with the highest spread of COVID, and then also Gwinnett is leading the ranks in spreading of COVID. Logic says, keeping people informed and helping them understand why it's important we help to work together as a community to help reduce the spread is critical to reopening our schools. However, because of misinformation, because of lack of information, because of lack of community engagement, and mind you, I'm a part of the community, and in my district, I do not see any engagement with our school board members to truly understand how we truly feel, aside from the petitions, and this is me talking as a constituent, besides other than the petitions and protests, that has caused a bit of a gap, which is seeming, and this is where I'm hearing from also folks like myself as a parent, which is seeming to look like the school system is in reactive mode and building plans in reference to that. But if we were able to understand the community spread, work with our community, with our state legislatures, with all of those people, then we could plan with our community when it's the safest to go back to school. So hopefully that answers your question. And I will pause there. Thank you for that opportunity.
Thank you, Ms. Watkins. I'm going to turn to Ms. Boyce at this point to answer the question and to repeat the question. Do you feel the decisions of the school board during the COVID-19 pandemic have put our students, teachers, and staff at risk? How can that risk be mitigated? Ms. Boyce?
Well, I appreciate this question, and this is on the minds of so many people out there. I don't think any of us can fully understand the depth of the crisis that we're dealing with the COVID-19. But at the same time, we also really need to be thinking about our students and putting them first. There have been many, many plans out there. There's a great deal of information that is flying around, and our superintendent looks very closely daily at all of the information. I know there was a question earlier that this was not planned for. We have had a pandemic committee in place since 2008, 2009. So many of these procedures have been in place, although they have not had to be implemented in any extent like we've had to do this past year. There are many, many plans in place and a great deal of information. We have also contacted community members. I have never heard from as many constituents as I have since COVID began. Thousands of contacts, and all of this information is put together and it is shared with the people at the county office, and there is quite a lot of planning going on. It is an unusual time, and no matter what direction the school system goes, somebody's going to have another idea. Well, we should have done this. Well, I have great confidence in our teachers and our administrators, and they are providing a very good platform to provide education for our students. Those who want to be in school can. Those who want to be in online only can do that as well. Thank you.
Ms. Boyce, just a quick follow-up question. Where can parents find all of these plans that you mentioned?
There's a tremendous amount of information on the Gwinnett County website. If you return to look at the Return to Learning Hub, many of these questions are answered there. There are videos that give some of this information. And again, if you have any other specific questions, again, all the plans are not necessarily all spelled out because they're not. They're still in progress, or new information does come out daily. So again, you certainly can contact me, or you can contact other people with the school system too.
Okay, thank you for that. Dr. Therese Johnson, same question, and I will repeat in part the question. Do you feel the decisions of the school board during the COVID-19 pandemic have put our students, teachers, and staff at risk? How can that risk be mitigated?
Absolutely. I think when we look at the data from the World Health Organization, and we look at the guidance from Dr. Fauci and other people, other medical experts, we understand that during the height of this COVID pandemic, we have made a decision to bring our students back into the classroom. We also understand that the data is continuously evolving, and that includes students who are asymptomatic. And now we also know that students are now coming up with COVID, like living with COVID, bringing it to school and dying from COVID. So there is risk. And it's a difficult decision as well, I think, in certain ways, when we understand the risk of also, and this is me trying to be empathetic to the needs of the constituents here in my community, is, understanding that, children with special needs also need more support. And during this pandemic, it poses challenges for them to get what they need. So it is risky, and the ways we can avoid these risks are to continue to ensure that we're transparent about the information that we're presenting to our teachers, to our students, our parents, our administrators. We're really honest about the data. We make our decisions that puts human life, that prioritizes human life, and then we also abide by the measures aligned with the World Health Organization around ensuring that the cases are reduced. We have a 2-week period of a reduced amount of people who are not contracting COVID-19. We ensure that our numbers, our contract rates and death rates are also lowered. So we want to just make sure that we're abiding by the direction of the professionals, the medical experts who are telling us, here is what you can do to reduce risk. Now, we all know COVID is here. It's here. We have to live with it. But at the same time, we decided to close our school system when there was an outbreak of the pandemic initially, right? This initial outbreak. And now the numbers are higher, the risks are higher, and we're making the decision to bring our children back when we're at a more dire situation than we were before. And so this is the issue. So there is risk. And again, I believe as leaders, I would not want to know that I participated in a decision around and putting anyone's life at risk. But I do understand that there are risks, and I just think that we should just abide by the guidelines of the experts, follow what they're saying, and we do the best we can to ensure that everyone is safe. And so I just hope for the parents who are watching this, the teachers who are watching this, to do what you can to protect your life, your safety of yourself and your family. Please do what you need to do.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to go to Ms. Banks now. Ms. Banks, are you with us? I want to make sure. Are you good?
I'm here. I don't know for how long, so.
Okay. Same question. Do you feel the decisions of the school board during the COVID-19 pandemic have put our students, teachers, and staff at risk? How can that risk be mitigated?
I absolutely do believe that the decisions of the school board have put our students, teachers, and staff at risk. I've been very vocal about it at the school board meetings. Here's why. We're not even following the CDC guidelines initially. Those guidelines are set out as a blueprint of how we are to keep each other safe, and we can't even do that. So if we can't abide by the CDC guidelines of having a 5% or less infection rate and 14 days consecutive non-infections, this virus is going to spread. It is going to spread on the buses. We never figured out, or I never heard anything at the school board meetings in reference to how we're going to social distance on the bus, because that is also not following the CDC guidelines, which is 6 feet from a person, as well as not being in an enclosed space for more than 15 minutes. That is not happening on the bus. That bus is a super spreader situation, and those kids are getting off the bus, coming into the schools, and that is the way that it's going to spread. So that is why I was in agreement with one of the school board members, which is Mr. Blair, to do digital learning until it is safe. We must make sure that our students, our teachers, our faculty, and staff are safe. Number one, first and foremost, by abiding by the guidelines. If we have comprehensive measures and guidelines that we must follow, that is what leadership is. Sometimes that's a hard decision to make, but that is a decision that must be made. It is going to happen. We already have schools that are closed down, and we're going to keep having schools that are closed down, and that is going to interrupt instruction anyway for the students. Especially our special needs students do not like change. So if we keep going in and out and having school and then having to go back home and all this stuff is happening, that is not consistent learning for any of our students. At least with digital learning, we have consistency until we are able to fight this virus to the point where the CDC says 5% or less, which we are not there. So I absolutely do believe that that decision has hindered us. I understand that there are teachers who choose to go into the classroom. However, we have teachers that did not have a choice, and they are forced to go into the classroom, which is absolutely unfair. So we have multi-generational families that live together, that if a teacher or a child comes home and spreads that virus in their household, that person can become very ill. Now, some students, as we know, may not get very sick when they get the virus if they do have it, but they go home, and at their home, they have a mother, they have a father, they have a grandmother, they have a great-great-grandmother. And that is the problem. Children are asymptomatic. They may not have a fever either. So you don't know if they are sick, but they're still coming into the building. That should not be happening. This is a pandemic. We are in extraordinary times. And I just cannot understand for the life of me why we are putting our community at risk at this particular moment.
Thank you, Ms. Banks. Dr. Murphy, same question. Do you feel the decisions of the school board during the COVID-19 pandemic have put our students, teachers, and staff at risk? How can that risk be mitigated?
Well, thank you very much, Ms. for the question. I certainly appreciate it. I do not believe that we have put our community, our teachers, our students at risk. We have worked to share the decision that families have made with the families. We have provided school choice to parents and family members to say, do you want your children to stay home for online learning, or do you want in-person learning? And the last survey that we took of this question, 51% of the parents said they wanted online and 49% said they wanted in person. I'd like to point out that no school in Gwinnett County Public Schools has closed during this fall period, and we'll wait to see how it might continue now that we are committed to the staggered schedule that is underway. I'd like to give you a little bit of background about my understanding of how all decisions have been made so that our community might have a better understanding. All decisions that we have been making have been made on the best medical advice that we could get. It came from many directions. The primary one I would recommend to highlight to everyone, because it's a daily report, comes from Johns Hopkins University on its COVID website. And it is presented to the United States public on the website based on a county by county description. That's been the major tool that the school system has used to determine the stress and the risk factors of in-school learning or online learning. We've also paid great attention to the governor, the State Board of Education, the Gwinnett Health Department, the Georgia Health Department. And I'd like to point out that even as today, I've got a report from Governor Kemp that has been released on the web today, that Georgia's percent positive of COVID tests has dropped from 12.4% on August 1st to 8.6% today. Our 7-day average of new cases declined 35%. COVID hospitalizations are down to 1.978, a 38% decrease from our peak and the lowest since July 6th. These are terribly important figures to report to the community, and I'm glad to be able to report them. Let me go into more background on how we have made our decisions.
We're at time, so please wrap.
I understand, Mr. Harris, but it's very important if I might wrap up by sharing this with you. That we do have great information on our school system website, and I would refer all of us to our frequently asked questions, and that we have, even more important, that we have no interest in putting our teachers, our staff, our students, our bus drivers at any kind of a risk. We have done all that we can to keep our students safe. We've worked with the United Way, with the Gwinnett County Commissioners, with private people who will support us to make certain that we have the equipment and that we are making it possible for those parents who choose to have in-person learning underway, and for those parents who choose online learning underway. Most especially, I'd like to refer us to the report that Dr. Arona gave to us at our last school board meeting, when she urged us not to act from fear, to understand that we must learn to live with COVID-19, and fear will be the greatest enemy of what we might be facing. Mr. Harris, thank you for letting me continue. I appreciate it.
Dr. Murphy, this is Penny Poole again. I have a follow-up question because I have Dr. Arona on record at the Gwinnett County Public School August 18th meeting that was just recently held. And per her testimony, that is part of the record. She is saying that the numbers that they have, that they do not give the same information that you are giving today.
No, this is today's, I'm sorry.
May I finish, please?
Please, I'm sorry.
As a matter of fact, the numbers that you quoted do not match with the numbers that is on the Gwinnett County, the Gwinnett, Newton, and Rockdale County websites. As a matter of fact, the testing of the people in the county has been so minimal that it's not representative of those who are actually positive. So before you put those, I would like to see those numbers. I would like you to post those numbers because the numbers that are on the county website do not match the numbers that you're saying. And one of the problems, again, is transparency. If you give it to us, Gwinnett County NAACP would be glad to post your information. But it does not match with the numbers that are today on the Gwinnett County website dated August 24th. And,
Mrs. Poole, thank you for your question.
It's not a question, it's a statement toward the information that you gave just now.
If I might just respond then. Mrs. Poole, these are not figures about Gwinnett County. They're figures about Georgia. And they came from Governor Kemp's office. It's a press release that came out today. And I don't mean to confuse what Dr. Arona said on August 18th, but this is what I refer to, and I'd be glad to share them back with you. Thank you so much.
Okay, so if they're numbers from Georgia, we're giving you numbers from Gwinnett. So
yes,
those numbers are not indicative to the situation that is happening in Gwinnett. Dr. Arona, who you just referred to, on August 20th at the Gwinnett School Board meeting, said that she was not responsible for making this decision. My question, let me finish, please finish that remark, but I do have a question as to who is responsible. So please, Amira, if you would finish. But again, those numbers were erroneous, Dr. Murphy.
Absolutely. Thank you, Penny. Now, the next question, because we are running towards the end of our time, is going to be a quick a round robin question. I'm looking for just a yes or no response to this question. And the question is, will you commit to a daily COVID-19 report in your district detailing how many cases and the location of those cases as students and teachers return to the classroom? I'm going to hand that question over to Dr. Johnson first.
Absolutely. I can't even say yes to that. Absolutely.
Thank you. Dr. Murphy.
I'd like to point out that those numbers are on our Gwinnett County website. It's a report of teachers who are absent and a report of students who are absent based on COVID. And yes, of course, I would commit to it. And I'm happy to report that information is on our website. It is referred to in today's Gwinnett Daily Post in an article by Carl Yeomans. And in that article, he gives the website. And if you have any questions about it, I'm confident that Mr. Yeomans could assist you, or I'd be glad to follow up in any way I can. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Boyce. You're muted.
Sorry. Yes, those numbers are very, very plain on the website. It's broken down by each school. It's shown by suspected cases. It's exactly where everybody is, and it's in there daily. So please look at that. It is not in any way transparent. It's right there.
I'm sorry.
Ms. Banks, did you have a question? Yes. Okay.
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
I will. And I'll even go further. Let's not be fooled by what you see on the website. We need to make sure that those numbers are taken with fidelity, because there are some instances where people at different schools already have different numbers compared to what is being shown on that website. It's not about looking at the numbers on the website. It is about getting correct data, fair data, accurate data. A lot of this stuff has become politicized for some reason or another, which it should not, but we must be transparent in the numbers that are shown. I don't know where these numbers are coming from, but I know that a lot of teachers already know that some of those numbers are not accurate because they are at those particular schools. So we need some third-party person taking these numbers. I don't know how those numbers are being collected, but we make sure that they're being collected with fidelity. And absolutely, transparency is number one. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And Ms. Watkins, yes or no?
Yes, and I am going to piggyback on what Tanisha said there. Actually, I'd like to take this a step further. For today, I would like to challenge our school board members to ask the school system to tell us exactly what the caveats are for those numbers that are presented today, because not all cases are, if you are tested with COVID or you could have been exposed, or if you were tested for COVID, yes. And no, because by the time you reach the numbers, it could take up to 2 weeks to get it there. And I know from experience. And also making sure that you have those caveats within there stating that those who have been exposed were tested, and this is the follow-up with the test. But the thing is, because we're not encouraging that, we may not see the full results. So we need caveats today so people understand where we're getting these numbers from. And if it's simply just by a verbal, yes, I think I have COVID, that's not enough for our community. They need to see the raw information and how we actually are committing to tracing this disease.
Absolutely. Thank you. And thank you for your answers. I'm going to turn the program back over to Adrian.
Can we just make one other acknowledgement about these numbers also? And
yes, go ahead, Penny.
Yeah, as we were talking about these numbers, and as she was talking about caveat, what she was referring to are benchmarks. What benchmarks are being used to define what is how these tests are being made? Now, for the school board to say that they are independently conducting these tests outside of the framework of a medical professional, there's a problem with that. How could those numbers be confirmed if it's not coming officially from a medical professional? So if their numbers are not in line with our public health department and they have numbers that are outside of that realm, that's a problem. It's a problem from the standpoint of fidelity. It's a problem from the standpoint of correct data. It's a problem. So they can, Yeomans with the Gwinnett Post can put up any data he wants to from the Gwinnett County school system. But if it does not come from medical professionals who have taken these tests, who have verified these tests, who have quantified these tests, and then an epidemiologist look and then determine this data, that test is not correct or valid. So I want to, one last quick question, and I know we're over. And my question to all of you members, if you became elected officials, whose decision would it be to determine our current system of how school is determined? And I need a 1 minute answer or less. How the best practices for having education in Gwinnett County will be determined in Gwinnett County. And this is for all those who are seeking office. Thank you. 1 minute or less.
I'll go.
Can we start with
Yeah, you have to tell. You have to assign questions to someone.
if you want to show me the screen again, I'll look at the screen and assign the question. Thank you.
How about we'll start this one with Karen.
Thank you.
Don't sound mean to sound cliche, but the power is in the people. So our public, we have public schools. So therefore the public will help to set those requirements. Again, the power is in the people here. And don't think that you do not have that. You actually really do. You hold this school board accountable. The school board holds the school system accountable. You tell us your requirements. We try our best to meet them. And it's reflected in our policies. And we have to remember that this is critical. The power is in the people. The public runs the public school system. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we'll have Mrs. Boyce.
Yes, the power is in the people. Absolutely. The school board does represent the people, and we bring the words to the board. We set the policies. We hire the superintendent, and that's what it's all about. Our school system has run very well. It has a system of excellence throughout many, many years. Many people have not even paid as much attention, perhaps, to our school system as they should have. They just assumed everything was running well. And now with COVID situation, more people are tuned in a little bit because they're at home and paying attention for it. But it is my estimation that if I am reelected, I will continue that system of excellence with as much input from our community as I can. And I would like to go ahead and make my closing statement, if that's okay, because I know we're running very, very short on time.
We can. We will give you time to do that if we could let the other candidates ask.
Okay, yeah, because I know we're running out here. I know people have other commitments.
Yes.
Next, we'll go to Dr. Johnson. Are you there, Dr. Johnson? I think you are muted. All right, well, we will move to Mrs. Banks.
Can you repeat the question one more time, please?
It was showing, having transparency. You as an elected official, who would be in charge of making these decisions for our county when it comes down to best practices and getting decisions such as in-school learning versus this virtual learning? Who would make those decisions? Because this time it was made unilaterally by the superintendent.
That's right.
Yes, it would need to be a decision made by the community and the school board as a whole. Those decisions, the opinions come from the community, which we as elected officials represent. We bring the feelings of the community to the board, and then all of us make the decisions based on what the community is asking, based on current, correct data, as well as having open platforms for people to hear how they feel and having that transparency. So it is the public and then the school board as a whole.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll go to Dr. Murphy.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Harris, and thank you for this question. The role of governance of the public school system is a team effort. It's a team effort between the superintendent and the elected board members. In 2018, Gwinnett County received the inaugural Governance Team of the Year Award from the Georgia School Board Association, and that commended the best practices that we operate under here in the Gwinnett County Public Schools. The superintendent recommends, the school board supports or declines. And the school board, as has been pointed out very accurately, represents the community. And the community has the final say. The community has the final word. And there's not a question about that. how we've operated here in the Gwinnett County Public School System has been recognized, as I'm pointing out, by the Georgia School Board Association for the best of 180 school systems in the state. And we've had other recommendations, but this particular one goes to the question that you have asked: how will the school board decisions be determined, and who is responsible? And certainly as a very active member of our Gwinnett Board of Education, I support the way we have been operating, because it is underscored in Senate Bill 84, the role of the school board and the role of the superintendent. That law was passed in 2010, and it informs all the work that we do here in the Gwinnett County Public School System.
Okay.
Very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And
Dr. Johnson?
Yes, thank you. Dr. Johnson, can you answer that for us? Can you hear us? If not, let's go on to Tanisha Banks.
Tanisha, you already answered that question, right?
Yes, I did. I already answered
I
it.
apologize.
Well,
That's okay.
Well, no worries. With that, we'd like to give everyone just 30 seconds to tell us why you should be the next Gwinnett County School Board member. So we will start that with Mrs. Boyce.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. And I do appreciate the opportunity to be with you this evening. And if anyone does have any other questions, please contact me. You certainly can at 770-995-6796, or you can look at my website for additional information. But I'm very pleased of my performance for sure on the Gwinnett County Board of Education, where I've been for 15 years, and I will continue the Gwinnett's record of educational excellence by, first of all, recruiting and retaining our very, very best teachers. And as we spoke today, we do perhaps need to get some more in the multicultural area, and we will definitely always look for the very best teachers that we can get. Also, I plan to ensure innovation and choice. As we've seen that very closely with the COVID situation here, where we've had two different major choices here. Also, I will assure a very safe school environment. Safety is a huge portion of our day, not only our physical health, but our mental health as well. And I worry about our children in the situation that they are in, and we will continue to provide whatever sources we need for that as well. And finally, delivering a quality education for all students. No one should be left out. We need to make sure that we are considering the very needs of each individual child, because our children are precious, and it is our responsibility, no matter who wins this election, to make sure that our children have the very best that they have. They are depending upon us, and I would appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Boyce. Next, we'll have Mrs. Watkins.
Thank you. Could you repeat the question again?
This is just for your closing and to let the voters know why they should vote for you.
Okay. I humbly ask for your vote because I will, as a school board member, work to ensure that there is transparency, oversight, and accountability of our school system. I understand we need recommendations from our superintendent. However, if we are not able to state requirements and understand what our community actually needs because we're not fully engaged, that could be difficult and difficult for our superintendent to be able to meet those requirements. So I will work to help ensure transparency, oversight, and accountability, as well as being in the weeds with our community stakeholders, so we truly understand what the needs are for our students, to ensure we are able to meet their individual needs, so that they can make the right choices, and so that we can all make the right choices, and then give the right opportunities, and again, to ensure that we are meeting the students' individual needs. I humbly ask for your vote. Thank you very much for this opportunity, NAACP. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mrs. Watkins.
Yes,
Next,
and,
we will go.
I think that's all of them. I would like to thank them all for coming for our agenda. And then I'm going to turn it back over to you, Simeon. So
I believe we still, did everyone give their finals?
No.
I think there's still more. I didn't think so. Dr. Murphy, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Harris. My goal for 2020 to 2024 is more Everton Blairs, more Hannah Wangs, and more David Sevilles. The reality is that there are thousands of Evertons and Hannahs and Davids in our school system. I have been to over 100 graduations, met thousands of salutatorians and valedictorians, and leaders like them who have gone on to Ivy League schools, University of Georgia, Georgia Tech, Clemson, and are out there just like Everton and Hannah and David, changing the world. These great students and others happen in Gwinnett County every day because of the work we have done. And I like to think that I have contributed to it, to create a school system that values diversity, supports equity, provides safety, produces citizens. My specific goals for the next 4-year term include providing a safe and secure school system and school climate for students and schools, supporting academic rigor and school choice for all K through 12 students and parents, keeping salaries and retirement options safe for our teachers and staff, protecting the funding and balanced budget of our school system, valuing equity and diversity among students, teachers and staff, and community. This is an election in a year of great change. I ask you to consider the achievements of Gwinnett County Public Schools in the past. I have been a part of those achievements. I have also been part of directing our school system of the future, specifically 2020 to 2030. Help us
Let's go ahead and wrap, please.
Thank you. Help us keep our world-class school system focusing on academic skills, keeping students safe, and promoting a bright and positive future. I ask you to vote for me on November 3rd if you want a leader with a proven record of diversity, equity, safety, excellence, and achievement. Thank you to the Gwinnett NAACP, to our listeners and viewers. Thank you very much for this opportunity for a community discussion. Thank you, Mr. Harris, for what you've done, Ms. Lawson and Ms. Johnson and Mrs. Poole. Thank you so much and good evening.
Thank you. And now we will have Mrs. Banks.
Yes. Hi, everyone. I humbly ask for your vote in November because I believe that we need new leadership for changing times. Just as Dr. Murphy stated, this is a year of an election in a state of great change. And that is correct. That changes me. I will be the voice for teachers, students, parents. I will address your concerns. You will see me at your schools. I will be transparent, accountable, and available. I will be at your schools. It's funny that I haven't seen my school board member at my school. I maybe seen my school board member once, but I haven't seen my school board member at all. And that's not good. So we need to make sure, and I will make sure that I will be present at your schools. You will see me. I also will make sure to guarantee that accountability and transparency is our #1 goal. I hope to see you at the polls November 3rd. There's a major contrast between myself and my opponent. I am a current school board teacher right now. I know what our teachers need, and I want to establish a culture that our teachers feel comfortable coming to me without feeling that they're going to be retaliated against if they are having a trouble with their school. And that's very important. I would like to change the culture of Gwinnett County to be more inclusive for our teachers, students, and parents. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And I'd like to thank all of our candidates here today. One, just being brave enough to come here and face our constituents to make sure they know and that they are the most informed for this big election we have coming up. Here at the Gwinnett NAACP, we take pride in our advocacy as well as taking pride of serving the community at large, specifically in Gwinnett, the Black community that seems to be underserved in so many areas, including education. So we are looking for each of you. We got you on record today, and we're going to hold you accountable going forward. So we are looking for each of you to represent the community and represent Gwinnett County in the way that it should be represented. I'd like to thank each of you individually, as well as thank our communications team, our political action team, and our education committee for putting this together. Our moderators, Adrian Johnson, Amira Lawson, and our president, Penny Poole. I can't say it enough how important it is for us to be here in front of our audience and making sure that these candidates are accessible to you. Last, if you are interested in joining the Gwinnett NAACP, make sure you go to naacpgwinnett.org. There you can volunteer, which is awesome. We need volunteers. We are all volunteers, and we are here trying to make a difference in our community. And lastly, we will accept your donations. Those donations are important in keeping us going and running the programs that we have. So please, as you are advocating, drop $1 or $2 and let us know that our work is impactful in the county. We appreciate all of our viewers. We appreciate all of our members. On behalf of our executive committee, we would like to say thank you. And I will turn it over to Penny Poole for some final comments before we go.
And this is really quick. I want to commend our communications chair, Simeon, for this new platform, for his vision, and for directing this forum today. Most of all, I want to thank our participants again. Carol Boyce, Dr. Therese Johnson, Dr. Mary Kay Murphy, Tanisha Banks, and Karen Watkins. They were not pre-programmed with questions. They were bold to stand before you and answer as honestly as they knew how. And I want to thank them for that. And last but not least, I want to remind everyone that not only must you vote, but you must vote early. Our PAC chair had an announcement that the Gwinnett NAACP would start GOTV, getting out the vote, on September 7th. Please go to our website. And not only is she doing a wonderful job, Amira Lawson, but she is having phone banking. She will be doing queries. We will be reaching the community virtually and even coming up with voter registration ideas. As well as voter registration, please request that absentee ballot early. Please request it early. If you have not received that request for application for your absentee ballot, then please make sure to stand in line. Along with one other community announcement, the census. Let's not forget the census. They changed the date on the end of the census. Previously, it was October 31st. Now, the census for people to sign up themselves will be ending September 30th. Again, the census deadline has been moved up to September 30th for citizens to be able to register online without someone coming to your home. This was a wonderful event. We thank our members, we thank the community, and again, the candidates. God bless each and every one of you. And we look for a an election that has everyone coming out. And one last thing, and I just want to leave in prayer. And I just want to pray for those who have been affected by this COVID pandemic, this pandemic that has turned our world upside down. I want to pray for the families of children who are going through such new experiences with trying to learn. I want to pray for the safety and protection of everyone who has to go in school to have in-school learning. I want to pray for peace in our country. Pray for people not having to feel marginalized, not feeling scared, but being able to live their life. I want to pray for understanding, just as we as human beings can live together in this world and be recognized for our integrity and who we are. I just ask God to bless this country, bless our county, bless our leaders, that they will make sound decisions that will help propel us all to know how to treat one another, respect one another. In Jesus' name, I pray to my God today. Amen. Thank you again for coming.
Thank you, and you all have a great evening.